I've just had another Neewer delivery. This one is supposedly the Neewer Upgraded N55CR Travel Tripod. It's supposed to be 80.7 inches. It's a mixture, I believe, of carbon and I think steel. It could possibly be aluminium, but I think it's steel. So this is how it turned up. No extra box or anything, so it's totally recognisable as to what the product is. And I haven't opened this yet, which is why I've got the knife. So let's see what's inside. And by the looks of it, one travel bag, sealed in plastic. I can see I've got a pack of silica gel in there as well. Silica gel, always handy to put in some of your items. And storage wise, actually quite a nice bag. It doesn't seem massive. Open this up. I mean, first of all, the bag quality, I've got to say, is nice and thick. It feels padded. It's thick on there. Decent zip, and the handle is adjustable, so it's closed at its smallest point at the minute, so it should go a reasonable size. Also inside here is some more silica gel. There's a bag here which has got the instruction manual in and an Allen key, plus their usual little warning slip they put on everything. So I'm just going to open this up anyway, because I've found a lot of their instructions are very, very vague, but in actual fact this one looks like a proper book and gives the product components there. In actual fact, it's actually the first thing I've had from them which the instructions I'd say you probably want to sit and have a look at. Tripod itself in yet another bag. So it's a fair bit of plastic, which probably wasn't actually needed. The thing about this compared to most other tripods, it's usually collapsed with the legs folding up rather than folding down, which means you get that more compact area. So the legs open up like this. There's a locking mechanism that you put on here, and these are stiff, so, and I suspect that's probably where the Allen key is for, so you can alter them at different areas. And that just locks in place like that. And the head has also got another bag on it. I've opted for the ball head, not actually had a tripod with the ball head before, so this will be interesting to see how I get on there. This time it's bubble wrap on there to protect it. I'd say this was probably more important packaging wise than a lot of these plastic bags. They could have just had one plastic bag either on the tripod, or, to be honest, the actual render storage bag itself, and left this as it is, and then just have the bubble wrap on here. So there's rubber feet on the bottom anyway. The legs are 3-section. So just to give an idea, that's the length there, and that's tall. This should be, I believe, a 2-piece centre column. So yeah, we've got an extension piece on the top there, just the same as the legs. And at the same time, this can also be altered down as well. So that's why where normally you would pack up a tripod, you would pack it up that way. With this one, the legs go in reverse to pack it up. So on the head, it's, as I said, it's a ball head. There's a level indicator on the top here, so you can make sure you're level. There's also an indicator, level indicator on the side there as well. Now for release plate, I've got a feeling, yeah, it's just, this knob basically just does this up on the side here. And there's a couple of small bolts on here which catch in these plates here. So when it's on, you've got to release it far enough to get the plate in down that way. Once it's in, it will only go as far as those, and it's a standard, I think it's a 1/4 inch on there. That will do up there, and I've got to say that holds really, really tight. So that's, even though you don't have to physically tighten this up really tight, it does tighten up there well. There's 3 adjuster knobs on the side here, so I'll turn this around so you can see this better. This large one here is basically the lock for the ball head, and that takes quite a lot of effort. I mean, I haven't massively overly tightened it, so even with a camera with a slightly heavy nose end or tail end, should hold nice and tight on there. So you can release that to then give you this. This knob here on the side here is basically, it's almost like a tension. So if you want it fairly stiff to move around, and it's a bit jolty, I wouldn't say it's the most smoothest piece. I mean, it might get better over time, but that's sort of like a tension. So if you loosen it off, basically it's free, that you can push about, let's say, just with your little finger there. I can tighten that up a bit, and all of a sudden it's now taken effort to push the thing around. This final knob here is for the rotation. So I can rotate that around, lock it in place, and there is a gauge on the back here. So it's runs from 0 up to 180 in both directions. So that way you know it's not really 0 to 360 what you'd expect in a circle. It's simply from the point you're looking at and whether you're turning left or right in degrees from 0 through to the other side 180 degrees. Not sure whether I'll ever use it. Can't see a lot of point for that. I suspect somebody will have a reason for it. So that tighten up on the bottom, and if you tighten this up, you can in actual fact take the head off, which I believe is standard thread size on there, so you can put different heads onto the tripod. You can alter these legs, so you'd have to push them in a little bit to pull these releases out. They're not sprung loaded or anything, so they are sort of like locking mechanisms that just push in and out. And there's, I believe, one. Let's just see if I can go around the different ones here. 2. So that's really the options you've got for how you put your legs. So there's 1 quite narrow like that, 2 so it's fairly wide, and 3 so it's really extremely wide. So let's just see out of interest how low I can get the tripod. And because of that, I'd have to take the centre column up and I've now got a very low level tripod. So floor wise, probably about 12-15 inches from the floor for the camera level with the tripod in that configuration. Now if you really want low level shots, I believe you can in actual fact take the column out. Also on the base here you've got a hook so that if you need to put any weighted bags on to keep your tripod more steady, you can actually use that. You can unscrew this. So that's effectively the hook there. That's all plastic, this whole nut. So make sure you don't cross thread that, because you will soon destroy the threads. And once you've got that out, you should be able to take the centre column out. And with taking the centre column out, it means that you can mount it upside down. So I'm going to probably have to put the legs in another step. I could mount that way. And you can have your camera mounted upside down, so that if you want to do some really low level angled shots. Now this also acts as a monopod. So while I've got this centre column out, it's actually the centre column I believe you use. So one of these legs actually has a grip on it, where the other two are identical, and it's this one that you can unscrew. That then really becomes our monopod. So we've actually got a proper metal thread in this one. And all of a sudden I've got a monopod with the ball head, or alternatively whichever head you want to put on the top there, and got the adjusted legs. So if I undo all these, I've got a monopod which stands right up there. All of this I think is carbon fibre, and all the legs and everything, it's just a case that it's probably the mechanisms, as in the ball head, which is made of steel. Just gone through the manual. It's probably about 6 pages you need to look at. The old case that I think a lot of us just do not read manuals, especially on small things like this, and the manual did actually say to take the actual tripod head mount off of that centre column to screw on the monopod. So this now should, with it fully opened, give me a much more sensible length. There you go. It's now really, for me, head height. I'm 5'10", so if you're obviously a lot taller, then you might want to consider still leaving that centre column on. If you're shooting, for example, if you're on a hill or something, or you're standing on a terrain where when you want to put the monopod down, it's maybe a foot or two even lower from where you're standing, having that centre column on may well then save you then having to be down like this. This is really easy to do. That comes off, screws back on the tripod. Okay. So the only thing you have to make sure you're doing is actually locking the rotation up, otherwise you won't get it unscrewed. And then the leg you're using for the monopod, that can go back on here. The easy way to know which one you're pulling off, it's the one with the rubber grip, which is what you'd be holding on to if you were using it as a monopod anyway. And I'm going to leave it like that at the minute, so that basically the top two sections of the leg, not the bottom one, are extended. Just to see what it's like height-wise. Stick the centre column back in. And I've got to say, that's actually really sturdy. The legs, even on the narrowest, spread out a reasonable amount so that it shouldn't topple over. And I can quickly, as I say, adjust this height wise, and I haven't got to have such a big spread of the legs. Now, there are also three, just pull these legs in, three of these holes on the side here, and I believe you can buy other attachments to screw into your tripod. I've only really ever used a tripod for mounting the camera on, nothing else, so you'd have to have a look to see what options there are. Packing away, it's just a case of simply getting these legs all up again. Literally pull these clips out and stick the leg right over the top. Now, obviously that centre column's in the way, so you would need to just loosen that to put up the top first. And I suppose this is where, had I kept the hook on there like that, would be a benefit, because then that centre column isn't going to drop out every time. I can put that on there, I can loosen that centre column off. It's only going to come down so far. So if you do decide to take the hook out because you want to keep taking the centre column out, then just be aware that when you stow the tripod, that way it's likely to fall out. Storing this in the bag, the one thing I've found is that it's very tight. The actual end where the legs fold over, that's quite loose. It's the end where the feet of the legs are and the actual mount. So you really do need to make sure that this here is properly loose, that you can rotate it around a bit, because two of the legs will probably just close fully, almost right onto the centre column, but the third leg, and you probably have to just adjust this around a little bit, the third leg will have a little bit more of a gap, and it's that area there that, I don't know whether you can see, this leg is actually a lot higher, will cause the issues of putting it in the bag. And it's probably, when you put it in the bag, the end where the zip doesn't open any further, probably better off putting that in, the thick end in first. That way you can do the zip up a little bit, slot this end in fully, it's easier if I'm doing this on the floor rather than trying to hold it as well. And then that can be zipped up fully. This is listed on the Neewer website at, I think it's about £131 at the moment. I used some discounts that they've got on offer on the website just last week, which I believe may now have ended, and I paid, I think it's about £105 for the tripod. So how would I rate this? I'm just going to turn around my action cam here so that you can actually see the tripod that I'm using here. Because I'm indoors and I'm just stuck for space, I haven't got the legs fully spread out here, but it's this that I often have problems with, because especially for putting the thing onto a rucksack and stuff like that, this is all lightweight material, box section. It's nice and strong, but it's probably not the most sturdiest of things, and it is nice and light. And the tripod I have this other camera on is also a Velbon, which is what the big one is, just a much smaller version, and this is absolutely ideal for doing those small low level things, say like where you want to do close-up shots in the garden. I want to go for something a little bit more sturdy, a bit more modern. Literally everything on this carbon fibre, so it's kept the weight down. The weight of this is supposed to be 2 kilo, but I will put on the video somewhere the full specs that they've got on their website for this. Would I say it's value for money compared to a lot of other alternatives out there? I've got to say, £105 for what I paid, even if you've got to pay the full 131. To me, so far, seems a really, really good quality purchase, and certainly worthwhile the money. Not sure whether I'd like more adjustments for where the legs are. There are 3 stop points, as I say, on this. The very wide angle like that. I'm not sure whether I would like to have something that could go between there, even if there is something that exists anyway. I'm not sure. Well worth the money. How much better the more expensive models would be compared to this, I don't know, but at least there's a lot of things that I could buy for extras on this, which you would possibly get on the more expensive tripods. For example, like the different types of heads, if I wanted to change them. Thought I'd give an update on the tripod. I have been out for a walk this afternoon, 6 hours in all, about a 4-mile walk, stopping loads, getting things out of my new rucksack for either changing lens, doing videos, getting the drone out to fly and get videos and images, and sometimes to get the tripod out, especially when I wanted to use my bigger 600mm lens. It was more stable, especially when I could get within a reasonable distance of some birds, and I could at least just stand there taking multiple images. Now, I will say that I've been really impressed with this. I've literally stowed it this way all day. Haven't bothered to turn the legs inside out. There was no need for the smaller storage space. It fits onto the rucksack just as it is, absolutely fine. And even with my 600mm lens, with the tripod mount, there is a lens mount to the tripod so that you don't put all the weight on the camera. The lens takes the weight because the camera lens is nearly 2 kilos. And even with that on there, it was slightly nose heavy, and I've got to say the tripod coped absolutely wonderful. The ball, as I said before, isn't necessarily the smoothest, but by the time you actually get some weight on there, it does seem to move around a lot easier. It's when you try to do this by hand that it feels that there's odd little stiff points, but with nearly 2 kilos of camera gear on there, it just moves around so nicely, and I didn't have any issues with it trying to tip off or anything like that. The only thing I would say is that with the, like I say, the weight of the camera on there being nose heavy, was that sometimes, because it probably wasn't totally dead level, because I hadn't locked the rotation, you would see it just slowly go round like that, really at a really slow pace, which wasn't an issue. It's just a case that it's balancing itself out and it just doesn't suddenly zoom round or anything like that. I've mainly used the legs in this position. I did actually move them out one step further where I sat down to have my lunch. It was actually nice just to sit on the floor, get the tripod out, have the legs spread out that one step further, and you could sensibly use the camera. And if I needed to just take it up a little bit, I could just raise the centre column. So I was a bit worried about these types of fittings, and I've got to say, I would rather take this tripod out on my rucksack anytime over my old tripods. Even though they're probably lighter, they feel bulkier. This feels so much slimmer and such a better design. No sharp edges or anything like that. Everything is just curved and round. So if you know what the so-called upgraded part is supposed to be for this tripod, please do let us know down in the comments. Thanks a lot for watching.